Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's session where we take off from where we had left off yesterday. I hope you're all able to hear me and that you can see the slides on the screen. Okay, right. So, yesterday we had discussed two very important aspects of presentation, namely the message or the story and the slides or the visuals. Today we're going to discuss the third most important element of a presentation, the human part of a presentation, which actually draws together your story and your visuals in order to integrate them in the form of a presentation. This is the delivery. You have to be calm and composed and confident in order to be effective in a presentation. So, what are the things that you can do when you're trying to prepare to deliver a presentation? Before the presentation, you can rehearse with somebody. It could be with a friend, it could be just in front of the mirror, or could even be with your pet. Practice always allows you to figure out what are the points where you are a little bit weak so that you can pay more attention to those points. Sometimes you tend to forget certain parts of your script. The more you practice, the more aware you'll be about this particular fault in your presentation. So you'll be able to pay more attention to that and thus rectify it in time for your actual presentation. Rehearsal also gives you this very notable advantage, and that is something in terms of the tone or the rhythm of your presentation. The more you practice, the more attuned you will become to the content that you're presenting, and the sequencing of information will happen a lot more naturally. You will instinctively know what comes before what comes after what. This is going to greatly benefit you when you are actually presenting because you will not have to wait or fumble for anything because you're aware of the rhythm of your presentation. When you rehearse, you can also check whether your slides and your script are in sync. So they should go together. It shouldn't be that your script or the things you're saying are completely unrelated to the things that you're showing on the slides. So if you feel like they are not coordinated at some point, you can make slight alterations both in your script and in your slides so as to ensure that all the three elements in your presentation function together and function smoothly. You can always retain your script or your little write up with your bulleted points with you. This doesn't mean that you're going to be reading out of it. This simply means that in case you feel like there is some kind of a stumbling somewhere, you can quickly refer to that script and then overcome that stumble or that hurdle, right? So, whenever necessary, it is very helpful to have your script on hand. Timing is also very important in terms of a presentation. If you go early, it gives you sufficient time to be in control of your nerves. So even if you're a little tense, you have a little time to calm down, maybe breathe a little. Also figure out the technicalities. If this is a physical presentation, you'll have to figure out the technicalities of the space, of the place where you're standing, and the kind of devices that are given to you. If it's an online presentation, connectivity is very important. This is something that plagues me all the time. Even now, I've got to tell you that today actually, my connection is a bit erratic. So if you feel like you cannot hear me at some point, please stop me. But it matters that you get the time to even make this disclaimer, to calmly figure things out so that you do not appear too flustered when you are presenting. Sometimes these presentations, for instance, right now my video is not on. And that is also partly to do with the fact that my connection is erratic, right? But sometimes in interviews, you're required to have your video on. If you have your video on, you have to ensure that you are positioning yourself according to how the video is positioned in relation to you. So don't appear slouched, don't appear just above your forehead in the video. You have to position yourself in relation to how you're going to be captured by the camera. It's also very important to maintain eye contact. In a digital presentation, eye contact is rarely ever possible. But if your video is on, you need to make sure that you are looking into the camera. Looking into the camera gives your audience the feeling that you are maintaining eye contact with them. You should also dress as required by the situation of your presentation. Sometimes we make presentations in class, so we'll be dressed like students. If you're making a high business presentation, you should be dressed accordingly, dressed formally, that is, right? The manner in which your attire communicates a lot, even before you start speaking, has to be taken into account. So it's not about dressing well or dressing poorly, it's more about dressing for the part that you're going to play in the presentation. So you're going to be making some claims, you're going to be making some arguments, and those arguments should appear credible. Your attire should not be the reason why somebody would discount your arguments. Okay? Sometimes, typically, when the presentations are online, we prefer to just dress casually from our waist downwards. And if at all we wear formals, we stick to formals on top. That should not be the case. It is actually something that can lead to a lot of debuggles, right? So, in a lot of ways, dressing appropriately for a presentation can make you feel more confident. It's less worrisome. It's getting something out of the way. You have to ensure that your breathing is steady, that you are breathing adequately before you start out to make a presentation. Your speech should be slow, slow enough for your audience to follow, and clear enough. Clarity is very important, clear enough for them to understand, right? Take an active effort to not exceed the time that is allotted to you. If you extend your speech, no matter how patient an audience you have, you are still kind of taking advantage of them, right? You're still keeping them captive. So be nice to your audience. Do not overstep the time limit that is allotted to you. These are some of the things that you can plan and prepare for before you set out to make a presentation. Now, every presentation, most communicative acts will have three parts: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. How do we start? How do we open our presentation in an effective manner? These are some of the strategies that we can use. It's not mandatory that you use any of these. It's just that if you use some of these, it might be easier for you to begin. You can ask a rhetorical question. What is a rhetorical question? A rhetorical question is the kind of question which you don't really expect your audience to answer. So you'll ask the question, you will also give the answer yourself. Some in some ways, when you make a rhetorical question or when you make a rhetorical statement, you expect that question or statement to be plainly understood by everybody. So it's the kind of question that does not really require an answer. It's not like a scientific question. However, you are going to craft your presentation around this rhetorical question such that you will be able to deliver more information in relation to that question. So it's not really an answer, rather, it's just a way of organizing your presentation. This is my central concern. Do you all know what this is about? Let me tell you what this is about. That's how you would proceed with a rhetorical question. You could also state some kind of an attention grabbing, interesting fact. You would immediately capture everybody's interest. You could tell them a story or an anecdote. An anecdote is something that happened, right? Or you could quite simply state the purpose of your presentation and outline the contents that you're going to cover. And how do you conclude? Similarly, you can use a few strategies to conclude as well. You can offer a summary. You can quickly restate all of your major points. Remember when we talked about that? Remember when we talked about that? And then you can connect all of these together using a call for action. And then you deliver your exit line where you thank everybody and end your presentation. Is that clear, everybody? Understood? Do you have any questions?
And understood.
Oh,
Ma'am, can you repeat what is
right.
the meaning of anecdote?
An anecdote is something that happened, an incident that happened to you. It does not really have to be something about you. It can also be something that happened to somebody you know. Basically, something that happened in your life, something that you encountered, as opposed to a story which is completely fictional. Maybe it could be something that you read in a newspaper. Do you remember how in that place on the 17th of October this thing happened? What do you think about that? Let me tell you a little bit more about something like that. You could start your presentation like that. So it would be common knowledge, maybe. If it's in a newspaper, everybody would have read it. Or we assume everybody would have some amount of knowledge on it. So you start your presentation by inviting everyone's attention to that particular incident that happened. Just like you would tell a story, you start with an incident. That is an anecdote. Clear?
Yeah, okay. Okay, ma'am, thank you.
Okay. After a presentation, what do? You can invite their comments. You can invite their questions. Okay? Now, if you want to invite someone's questions after your presentation, you should have planned your time adequately, right? You should have concluded sufficiently ahead of time so that you get time enough to address their concerns or questions, right? When somebody asks you a question, it's very important to know how to respond to a question. Sometimes people can ask very irritating questions, questions that do not have very good intentions. They can make us feel angry. In those cases, it's very important to remember that you are only responding to the question. You are not reacting to the person or his intentions. So you have to separate the person and his intentions from the question that he or she is asking. You respond to the question, you do not react to the person. Okay? If you don't understand a question, you can always ask that person to repeat the question. If you feel like this is just a question to which you don't know the answer, you can't even answer it even maybe like you can't even give a 25% accurate answer to the question. Let's imagine. Then you can say, I'm sorry, I do not know the answer to this question. I can refer more on this and get back to you. Or I can discuss this with somebody I know and get back to you. That's always an acceptable way to deal with a question. Do you know what is not acceptable? Pretending that you know things that you don't know. It's very unreasonable of people to expect you to know everything. But it's very reasonable of people to expect you to be honest. Right? So there's a difference there. If you don't know something, don't be so egotistic that you just refuse to accept that. Say that. Say that you don't really know the answer to this, but you'll get back to them because you're very good with research, right? You'll ask somebody, or you'll study more, or you'll refer other materials. You will ensure that all of this has been covered, and then you will let them know. You get a question, take your time to process that question. Really understand the question. If it's a long question, you can break it down into smaller parts. Now you know everything about sentences. You've been studying English 1. You know everything about all the different kinds of words that are there in English, different kinds of sentences that we use. So you take all of those phrases, take them one by one, break them down into chunks, and understand each of them. Ensure that you comprehend the question adequately before you respond to it. I don't know if you've seen some of these civil service interviews. So, most of the time, when they get a question, you will see that they take, before they answer, they take like a 2-3 second pause. And in those 2-3 second pause, they're actually arranging the information, the answer in their heads, so that they can deliver a coherent answer. That is a very good strategy that you can also use. You can take a thought pause. Even when they are asking the question, make sure that you are comprehending it. After they ask the question, take a 2-3 second pause, arrange the answer in your head, and then deliver it. If you don't understand the question, ask them to please repeat the question. Okay? So this has to be done very diplomatically. You can't get angry at this stage. Okay? That makes the audience feel that you are a child. You're not behaving in a very mature manner. So you have to take your questions seriously. You have to approach them very maturely, very judiciously, and you have to handle the questions in a very diplomatic manner. Now we are going to talk about a different kind of a presentation. This is something that often happens in the case of hiring. When people are there to recruit you to some position, instead of a full-fledged PowerPoint presentation, they will give you any one topic. And this is usually an argumentative topic, a debatable topic, right? So it doesn't have any one single answer to it. You will be asked to make a 2-minute speech on this argumentative topic. So you don't get a lot of time to prepare for this. In those situations, what do you do? This scenario. Oh, you're not able to hear me properly? Okay, just a second. Is that better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Heather, for letting me know. Right. So, how much did you hear? Can you just tell me?
Change
Did you
the
hear what I
slide
said
up.
about?
Yeah,
Go
when
on.
you change the slide, after that, I was not able to hear you properly.
Okay.
After
So,
changing the slide, yes.
okay. I'll start from this slide then. So we know that a two-minute argumentative speech is something that we might get as part of, it's a task that we get as part of the hiring process or a selection process of some sort. So you don't get a lot of time to prepare for this. Since we don't get a lot of time to prepare for this, the typical slide template would not really work. Time is of the essence here. This is the most important thing in such a presentation. So you need to quickly structure your speech, quickly make a draft of what you're going to say. It will have an introduction. This is a debatable topic, remember? For debatable topics, what was the strategy that we had discussed yesterday? Do you remember something called a prep method? Position, reason, example, position. The strategy that we use for debatable topics. It is the same strategy that we use in this case. Okay? But we are doing this very, very quickly. So you come up with an introduction. You state what is your position on this debatable topic. That is your stand on the argument. Okay? You start by saying that. Then you elaborate on the key points that you introduced, right? So as a reason, you say, okay, let's say, what was the example that we used yesterday? Capital punishment, right? Right. Should capital punishment be revoked? Should we get rid of capital punishment entirely? Different people will have different opinions. Let's say that I am going to say capital punishment should not be revoked. Capital punishment should not be abolished. It should be there. We don't use it every now and then, but it should be there. That is my position on it. Let's imagine. Okay. So I start by saying, good afternoon, everybody. I will now be talking about the necessity or lack thereof of capital punishments in our judicial system. My position on this topic is that capital punishment should not be abolished. So if I say that, that is my main statement. Then I have to give the reasons why I think so. I think capital punishment should be maintained in our judicial system as one of the kinds of punishments that are meted out to offenders because such and such are my reasons. What are my reasons? Maybe I feel that if there is a grave crime, a crime that is extremely serious, a crime that simply cannot be pardoned, the criminal should be aware of the gravity of his or her crime. And in order to make the criminal aware of the gravity of his or her crime, we should uphold, at least in principle, the idea of capital punishment. Not all crimes are equal. So we should uphold capital punishment as a possible recourse, legal recourse that can be taken in the case of a very grievous crime. Let's say this is one of my reasons. So I say this is my reason. This is how I would elaborate on my key points. My key point is my reason. Right? And maybe I can also cite a few examples. Do I have any examples to prove why capital punishments are necessary or are desirable in our judicial system? What are some of the very, very heinous crimes that I can think of? I can give those examples. I'm not going to give any examples right now, okay? I could give those examples, however, because that is also something that would help me elaborate on why I take this position. Then I can do something else. That is, I can anticipate potential counter arguments. So everybody is certainly not going to think the way I think. Some people will say, no, we should get rid of capital punishment. So I can anticipate why they would say that we should get rid of capital punishment. Capital punishment is a very serious thing, right? So you are actually, do you have the right to take somebody else's life, even if that person is a criminal? That is a very important question. So I can anticipate some of the counter arguments that I might receive. And I can also prepare refutations for these counter arguments. If they raise this counter argument, how will I respond to that counter argument? If they raise such and such a reason as to why capital punishment should be abolished, how do I argue that no, it should not be abolished? So you should not make very flippant, you shouldn't be joking about this. You shouldn't be making funny comments about somebody else's counter arguments. You shouldn't put them down either. Should be very respectful, even when it is an argumentative speech. But you can refute their opinion using valid reasons. Right? So use valid reasons to counter their perspective. Everything all right? You're able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have a question here.
Okay.
Yeah. So suppose if we are putting counter argument while we are speaking as a part of our speech, then it will make our point weak, right? Like, so we are equally
No.
like speaking both the side.
No, see, that is something that you should understand. We are not taking the counter argument here. We are saying some of my teammates might say that no matter how heinous the crime, we do not have the right to deprive another person of his or her life. Therefore, the kind of punishment that authorizes the state to take someone else's life should be abolished. However, that is their counter argument. However, I feel like unless the state regulates the order in its domain, things can quickly get out of hand. So the state is not a moral authority here. However, it is a regulatory authority here. As a regulatory authority, the state should have the power to retaliate against one of its citizens who has done something that is so bad to the rest of its populace. These are the grounds on which I would uphold our judiciary's right to award capital punishment selectively and sparingly to someone who has committed a crime of that much gravity. Do you see the manner in which I was speaking about it here?
Yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah. So I can anticipate somebody's counter argument. I can also prepare my response to that counter argument. The reason we are anticipating the counter argument is not to uphold that perspective. The reason we are anticipating that counter argument is to give a valid reason by which we can cement and reiterate our own original argument. Got it?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. With that, we can draw our argumentative speech to its conclusion. This is how you can structure a 2-minute argumentative speech. Now, I couldn't emphasize this enough. You have to be respectful of people who take a perspective that is different from yours. You just have to be respectful. This is not something that is up for debate. You might have very, very strong opinions on something, but that does not mean you can put down somebody else's opinions. Use valid reasons to refute their claims, but do not be disrespectful. Use your language very, very carefully. At the end of the day, what really distinguishes you as a candidate or as a prospective employee is your ability to work together with people who might disagree with you. Not everybody is going to agree with us. So, whenever you're given an argumentative topic, please ensure that you are respectful towards somebody who does not agree with you. Okay? This is not an easy thing to do, but I want you to remember this. Now, these are some examples of some 2-minute debate propositions or topics. Humans should extend their technological potential and colonize other planets. Editing human genes, what we had discussed yesterday. Security cameras invade our privacy and should be banned. Cats make better pets than dogs. Completely subjective. Living in very cold climates is preferable to living in very hot climates. Technology is making people more stupid every day. All of these are debatable propositions, right? Shall I give you a topic? Can you make a 2-minute argumentative speech on it? Security cameras invade our privacy and should be banned. Let's take this as our argumentative topic. Take 2 minutes. Prepare a quick draft of your opinion. How would you deliver this speech? How would you deliver this presentation? Right? If you are reluctant to speak, please do not leave the meeting. If you are reluctant to speak, that is fine. Just let me know that you do not want to speak. Okay? I am not a very argumentative person, so that's fine, right? But I would really appreciate it if at least one or two of you could maybe attempt to give me an answer to this. Your topic is security cameras invade our privacy and should be banned. Please prepare a quick draft. 2 minutes, okay? Anybody ready? Varun, would you like to try?
Could I get a couple more minutes?
Yes. Anyone else who would like to try? Rasha, would you like to try? Swaroop, Would you like to try?
1 minute.
1 minute. Okay. Okay, you've had enough time, I guess. Varun, let's start with you. No, don't leave the
Yes.
meeting. It's fine.
Should I start, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Good evening, everyone. I am Varun, and I'm here to speak about why security cameras shouldn't be abolished. Security cameras serve a vital purpose of preventing theft and unnecessary crimes that could easily be spotted through these. In a modern world, uh, although we have a lot of developments and a lot of uh, applications, the thing we should all be aware of is there are bad actors among us who might try to invade certain social norms and try to indulge in theft or other petty crimes. Such petty crimes can easily be detected and put an end to because of these security cameras. Security cameras, although being very beneficial, could pose a threat to our privacy, and some may argue that due to this reason, it should be banned. But I think there are ways to overcome this problem of privacy, and certain measures could be taken to make sure that security cameras are functional without posing a threat to people's privacy. The some of the one of the biggest arguments against security cameras is that major corporations having and owning the footage stored in their clouds could exploit it for various reasons, including training certain AI models on it without the consent of the people in the footage. Certain laws and regulations could be put in place to make sure such corporations cannot use the footage for their purposes and only have it be there for reviewing security. Um,
Is that all?
yes, ma'am. Could I?
Okay.
I could talk a bit more.
No, it's
So
okay. That's
I
enough.
do
You
think,
don't have to worry about it.
yes. Should I like conclude it?
Yeah, go on, conclude.
Yes. So I do think that the advantages the security camera brings to the table far outweighs its disadvantages, especially if proper regulations are put in place. And with that, I would like to conclude my small talk about why security cameras shouldn't be abolished in our society. Thank you.
Very good. That was excellent. Now, even if you did not speak, I want the rest of you guys to just take a look at the manner in which he spoke, right? Had an introduction, that he said his standpoint, he gave his reasons as to why he took that step. He anticipated some counter arguments and then refuted them in a very mature manner. Yes, That could be possible, but there are also ways to circumvent these kinds of challenges. Okay, you are not able to hear me properly. Right, okay. Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. Yeah, so let's just talk about how Varun spoke. He had an introduction, he stated his position on it, gave his reasons as to why he took that position. Then he anticipated some counter arguments and gave very valid reasons as to how those counter arguments did not outweigh the benefits offered by security cameras. And with that, he concluded, right? So he reiterated his original point as his conclusion. That was a very good example of a 2-minute argumentative speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And yes, yeah.
Now, Varun will be able to tell us that he was also a little nervous, right? So, this is also a chance for you to practice and be in control of your nervousness. Right. Hetal or Varun, did you guys want to say something?
Your voice got cut in the bit.
Yeah, we were not able to hear you completely in between.
Oh, now can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the voice clear now, or are you still not able to hear me?
Now clear, but sometimes it lags.
Sometimes it lags. I'm really sorry about that. It's because of my connectivity problem. If you do not understand anything, please let me know. I'll try to repeat that. So I was just trying to tell you that when you quickly get a topic like this, it can also make you really nervous. And Varun can attest to that, right? It can make us a little nervous. So now, if you practice this kind of an exercise, it would be very good practice for you as you go ahead in your career. That's all I was trying to say. Right. Now we have a quick recap quiz. What are the 3 major elements of a typical business presentation? What were the 3 major elements of a typical business presentation?
Introduction, conclusion, and main body.
No. What were the 3 main things that we needed, the 3 elements that we needed? We discussed 2 yesterday and we discussed 1 today. No? Remember how we spoke about the message or the story? The slides or the visuals? And then the delivery? You don't remember? Okay. So these are the 3 main elements of a business presentation. A typical business presentation would have these 3 elements to it. Introduction, body, and conclusion. Those are 3 elements of any presentation. In fact, those are the 3 elements of any communicative act. Anything you try to say, whether you realize it or not, it will have these 3 elements. However, a typical business presentation would always have a message or a story, slides or visuals, and the delivery that actually pulls the two together. You see a slide on the screen, Digital Enterprise Services. How would you correct it? What is wrong with this slide? Is the slide very nice? Would you do something differently? Would you do something differently? Go on, answer. Anybody can answer.
The text doesn't feel very readable on the blue background.
The text doesn't feel very readable. There is very little white space there as well. So you could arrange the text better on the slide. Anything else? We
Font
can also
color is
increase
not
the
good.
amount.
Very clustered.
Sorry, I didn't. Very clustered. Yes, very clustered. Somebody else was saying something?
Font color is not good, like a header color.
Oh, the header color is not very good. Yes, light
Yeah.
blue and white. Yes, that's right. Light blue and white, that color combination can be changed. So all of these are things that you would do differently. Now let's look at this slide, which presents the exact same content, just that the content is arranged a little differently. There is more white space in between. The color of the header has been changed. There are some very helpful icons which clearly communicate to us the crux of the point that is given next to it. All of these are very helpful in communication. So yes, in terms of slide arrangement, we could do it much better than we see in the first slide. This is another example. Advantages of remote work, right? And you have a couple of points here that are given one after the other. Here, the same points are given, but the points are structured in a better manner. The points are arranged on the screen in a more accessible manner, and your eyes are quickly drawn to each point individually. Let's look at this. Same content. However, it kind of makes a division. There are some benefits that employees will have if they are working remotely. There are some benefits that employers will have if they are working remotely. Since this is a debatable kind of topic, it presents to you two different sides of the same scenario. Okay? Look at this. This one's a lot more abstract than that, right? It just has these points scattered on the slide. Do you think this slide on its own would be adequate in a presentation? What should go along with this slide? Can you tell me? How would you be able to, if you were an audience member, how would you be able to make sense of this slide? You would use, is everybody all right? I just want to confirm that.
Yes.
Okay, everybody's all right. I'm glad to hear that. So, if you get a slide like this, which has very little text on it, but the page is kind of organizing each point in a very helpful manner for the person who is making the presentation. However, a slide of this sort will have to be supplemented with your own delivery.
We are not able to hear you.
Orally. Heather?
Yeah, we were not able to hear you. your
Oh,
voice.
you are not able to hear me?
Now you are
Oh.
audible. Yeah.
It happens now and then. Okay, I'll repeat what I was saying. For a slide of this sort, you will have to supplement the information on this slide with your delivery. That is, you will have to take each point and connect it to the rest of your presentation so that your audience can quickly follow along. See how there is very little text on this slide. Whatever is not here on this slide will have to be supplied using your oral presentation. So the slide will have to be synchronized with your delivery. That is what I was saying. Right. You are asked to give a presentation on whether working remotely is the better option for both employers and employees. Which of the following modes of writing your script will you opt for? Remember, this is a debatable topic. Everybody will have different opinions on it. In that case, which method would you use?
Problem cause solution.
No, Saranan.
Prep
Debate.
method.
Prep method, yes. Position, reason, example, position. For a debatable topic, you would use the prep method. Right. You are the head of sponsorships for the annual College Fest, and one of your biggest sponsors is backed out last minute, and now you find yourself short of funds. Which of the following modes of presentation would you opt for when you want to convene a meeting with your team members to resolve this? Operative word being resolve. Look at this word, resolve. If you want to find a solution for something, which method would you use? Saravanan, answer?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Problem cause solution.
Yes, problem cause solution method. In order to find a solution, in order to identify the problem, find its cause, and also suggest a solution, you would use the problem cause solution method. I want to just go back here for a second. Okay, you are head of sponsorship. You are the head of sponsorships, and one of your biggest sponsors has backed out last minute. But you have another sponsor on the line, and you want to convince this sponsor. You want to persuade this sponsor to invest in your annual College Fest. If you want to persuade somebody, which method would you use? A persuasive presentation. Which method? Attention, interest, desire, action. What method is that?
AIID option C.
AIDA method.
Yes,
AIDA.
the AIDA method or the AIDA method. Attention, interest, desire, action. You want to persuade somebody to do something for you. So if you want to persuade another sponsor to invest here, you would use the AIDA method. You have been asked to give a presentation on the evolution of the telecommunication sector in India. A lot of data. Which of the following modes of presentation would you opt for?
Past,
When you have
present,
a
Past,
lot.
present, future.
Oh, yes, very good. The past, present, future method is what you will use in this context. Right, what are the main takeaways from here? You need to prepare adequately for every presentation. You don't have to be a great designer to create great slides. You just have to organize your points in the most accessible manner. Make sure that you use minimalism in both time and design. Do not clutter your slides. Do not overstep the time limit that is allotted to you. Not even the most accomplished speakers can present well without being adequately prepared. Okay? You have a lot of resources available with slide templates. So you just have to know what is most fitting for your presentation, for your story or the message that you're trying to get across. People will always like you better if you communicate using few words in a very clear manner. Okay? When you make a very long presentation, people will very easily zone out of it. Right? That is it for today's presentation. We have concluded our sessions on presentation skills. I may or may not have made a very good presentation here for you, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Ma'am, I can deliver presentation in a simple way, but how I can deliver presentation with storytelling? How I can do this?
Storytelling does not, in this context, storytelling does not really mean you tell a story, right? You tell a story as in you make up a narrative, make up a fictional narrative out of it. You just mean like, in this context, storytelling quite simply means you arrange all the information into a narrative which others would like to listen to. For example, when I'm telling you stuff about the 2-minute argumentative speech, I had to make up a lot of things as I was speaking. When you gave me questions, I had to make up things in relation to those questions as well. However, this is just a way in which I was trying to structure all the things that I wanted you to understand in the form of a narrative. All of a sudden, I started talking about capital punishments. I started taking one particular position in relation to capital punishment. I was weaving a narrative out of it. I am trying to tell you that you can do this, 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 but I'm also trying to show this to you in the form of a narrative. Let's think about that other question that we just discussed, the telecommunications sector's evolution in India. You can make a very dry presentation out of it. You can also deliver it in the form of a narrative. When was the first time the evolution of the telecommunications sector started in India? What was that first seed? What initiative did we take then? How did we grow from there? Who invested? Who worked so hard? Right now, where are we? What are the things that we can do? Are there any possibilities for growth? You are trying to make a narrative out of it. This is what you mean by storytelling. Is that clear?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Where is the recorded session accessible? So the recorded sessions will be uploaded to YouTube, and the playlist link will be made accessible to you in your course portal.
Ma'am, I listen some speaker when they give speech. Sometimes they speak very loud and fast. Sometimes they speak slow. So how we can know that when we should speak fast and loudly, when we should speak slow? So how we can understand this?
That is something that you will have to understand by practice. That is not something that anybody can teach you. So when they slow down, maybe it's because it's a very important point that they want every listener to understand, something that they want to emphasize. So you should know what are the points in your presentation that you want to emphasize are. Right? So you should
Right.
know your presentation very well. The more you practice, the more instinctively you'll be able to say all of these things. Right. So, so this issue always comes up. YouTube or Drive. So you will not be given Drive access. The playlist link will be given to you. You will have to copy that link and paste it in the address bar of a browser window. So you will go to the YouTube playlist. You will not be given access to the Drive, right? You'll have to access the recordings on YouTube, not on the Drive, right? If that is all, then we'll conclude today's session. Thank you,
Ma'am,
everybody, for
where did
joining.
you say the link would be given, ma'am?
Course portal.
Where, ma'am?
The course portal.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
PORTAL. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just conclude the session. If anybody has further questions, they can stay back. I do want to wind up. Thank you, everybody, for joining today's session. I hope this was helpful to you. And someday, I hope that all of these things will come of use to you. You may now leave the meeting. Right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right. Stuttering problem when I get nervous in front of a crowd, just like now. Especially struggle with pronouncing words that start with A, I, S, and C, and sometimes I can't utter any word. How can I overcome this stuttering issue? Aryan, what you need to do is practice more. Okay? Practicing is what is going to really help you in this regard. You can also try reading books out loud. The more you practice, the better you'll get. Okay? And I want you to just understand that even the best speakers, even the people who you think of as the best speakers, are people who struggle with nervousness. Everybody has this issue. So don't think it's just you, just keep practicing. Okay? Right.
Ma'am, can you provide any presentations which is ideal presentation that we can